focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks.
Welcome to the Wealth on the Beach podcast with Daniel Alonzo. As always, I'm your host, where we're bringing you some of the greatest minds in the world. We're talking money, business, health, and wealth. And today, man, I have one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. I don't know how many years me and Chess worked together, but it was a long time. So what's going on, Chess? How you doing, man?
Daniel, doing wonderful. Hey, it's great to see you. It's great to hear from you, and it's great to see how well you're doing in the business. You're an awesome guy, man.
Well, I appreciate that, Chess. You're just for the listeners right now, I want you to know that Chess worked with our financial services company in the home office. He was a high executive with the company for 36 years. And we are a part of the largest financial services marketing organization in North America. And Chess was one of those guys that you could actually have a conversation with. And believe it or not, what Chess really did was he put out fires all over the country, all over the North America, actually. He was the guy when we needed wisdom, which, by the way, just a little plug, he just wrote a book called Seeking Wisdom. And I, there's no question about it. Like, I devoured that book because, this guy has wisdom. And we're going to get into it today, but if you're listening right now, you want to stay listening because you are going to become a better human being when we're done with this conversation. I believe that because I believe Chess helped me to become a better human being. And that's just the truth. So, hey, Chess, so tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Where'd you grow up? Where were you born, man?
So I was actually born in Germany. My dad was in the military, but he retired when I was 5 years old, and we moved back to what was then a rural community, Grayson, Georgia. And so I grew up, and my childhood was really one of those, Opie Taylor kind of experiences. We were in a rural area. You could leave the house, you could go anywhere you wanted to go. I had great parents. We lived surrounded by aunts and uncles, grandfathers, grandmothers. And so it was a true community upbringing. And so I have wonderful parents, my mom and dad. My dad, who passed away in 2012, is still my hero, and my mom is my moral compass. And so I was blessed to have great parents. I was blessed to grow up in Grayson, Georgia. And so, so that was where I was grounded, in that rural community.
And so did you, were you a good kid growing up? Were you a bad kid growing up? What kind of kid were you?
Well, we were good kids who, like I said, I grew up surrounded by my cousins and my brother, and we were always into some mischief. Okay. So, one time we were setting campfires in the woods behind our house, and we burnt 2 acres of underbrush in the pines. And another time when we were just little kids, we decided to dam up a creek and build us a place where we could swim. And the guy who owned the lake that was downstream, he wasn't too happy about that. So the things that we did as kids, okay, you got in trouble, but it wasn't like you were trying to get in trouble. It just sort of happened. But then that I grew up playing sports. Okay. So I played baseball, football, and basketball in high school. And so when I got to high school, you did whatever you did outside of school, you wanted to make sure that you were eligible to play in whatever game was coming up. So you had fun, but you had to make sure that you didn't get any real trouble because you want to be eligible to play in whatever game was coming up. So,
and you're a baseball player, right? You played a lot of baseball.
Well, I do love baseball. Okay. But when I was a kid, my dream was to be an NFL quarterback. Okay. And so I got to play quarterback really all my life, all the way through high school. Now in high school, I was a B team quarterback. Okay. I was in the 11th grade as a B team quarterback. So my senior year, I was the backup quarterback, but I wound up starting as a cornerback, and I was a place kicker. And so my first love was football. But then after I got out of high school, I started helping my high school coach, and I played baseball, and I love baseball. And I was actually, that was the sport I was best at. Okay. And so when I got out of high school, I started helping my high school coach some summer league teams and that sort of thing. And then when I started coaching kids was when I truly fell in love with the game of baseball. So, my son's today's a high school baseball coach.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you grew up playing baseball and football. And so, like, are you competitive? Because you don't seem to me like a competitive guy, like again, because, and I want to get into this today because, you're such a grounded, I mean, just full of wisdom and just an unbelievable guy. And I just don't see that competitive. Like, I didn't know you were a quarter, that's so you're competitive, right?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, okay, if I played in a backyard football, and I was one of the older cousins, so most of the time, if not every time we played, my team would win. But I was so competitive that if somebody on my team wasn't doing what they were supposed to do, I was a hothead, a lot more of a hothead when I was a kid than as I grew a little older and got just slightly wiser. But as a kid, if you were playing on my team and you wasn't giving your best, I'd be pushing, shoving, screaming at you. And so my grandfather had a key to the Grayson gym. Okay. And so he taught us the fundamentals of basketball. He would take all of our all the cousins to play basketball. And if my team was losing, then inevitably I'd get in a fight and he'd whip us, he'd whip me and take us all home, and that'd be the end of the basketball game. And so while while it didn't come out in my work career, I'm extremely competitive.
I love that. I'm so happy I'm hearing this right now because, because there's no question about it. If you were to say who's some hotheads in the company, you'd probably mention Daniel Alonzo as one of those hotheads in the company. So at least I feel a little bit better knowing that Chess was a little bit of a hothead growing up too.
Yeah. So one of the things so about the time that I was in the 8th grade, okay, everybody grew a lot bigger, and I was a little kid. And so that's when I really started working on my ability to get along with people, because it became obvious that you couldn't, that you had to be, you had to get along with people. And so
these guys were bigger. What you're saying is a lot of these guys got really big. You can't fight these guys anymore like you were when you were younger. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And really the thing that when I was in the 8th grade that made me realize that, that I needed to change, that there was a kid he was really about my size, and I really liked the kid. Okay. And so I didn't mind fighting somebody bigger than I was, but I never wanted to fight a little kid because they're crazy. You know what I mean? And so in that moment, I didn't run from the guy, but we wound up not fighting. We worked our differences out. And so from that moment forward, I've tried not to, that there's a better way to live life than to think you're going to fight your way through life. So.
Right. And I mean, did Dale Carnegie or How to Win Friends and Influence People? I mean, did you ever read that book growing up?
Yep. Yeah, I did. Well, so I didn't read it growing up. Okay. I actually, that if you think about when I was growing up I was born in 56. So in the 60s and 70s, all the self-improvement material that you had at the tip of your fingertips, there was some that was out there, But if you grew up in rural Georgia, you wasn't exposed to any of it. And so most of, a lot of my life lessons and the things, I've read over 1,000 books. I love reading self-help books. I've read, how to win friends and influence enemies. And so all of that stuff has helped me. But that, the world's so much different today. You think about, and I'm reading Deshaun Watson's book. Okay. He's a 25-year-old, what I would say is a kid. And I know folks don't like to be called a kid, but he's unbelievable. I mean, you think about, he's written a book on leadership. He was the quarterback at Clemson when they won the national championship. He won a state championship in high school. And he's the quarterback for the Houston Texans. And this kid's writing a book on leadership, and he's like 25 years old. And I'm thinking, when I was 25 years old, I was so green that, and so it's unbelievable the access to information and the things you have at your fingertips if you're young. If you grow up, or if you're in this this period of time when there's so much information available. You think about our business, that communications were a cassette tape, and now think of all the different channels of communications, all the information that's out there, all the things to help you succeed. And so really the first real self-improvement book that I read, you remember, our founder had a speech that, I went to a sales seminar, and a guy said, whatever you do when you leave here, go out and buy the book, Think and Grow Rich. What you find on page 30, what I found on page 35 changed my life. So I was just smart enough to go get that book and read that book. And so that was really the beginning of my desire to want to find out more, to learn more. And it became evident that if you want to be successful in life, you got to work as hard on yourself as you do in your career.
So now, did you go to college? Did you graduate? I mean, what was your education?
Yes,
like?
I did, Daniel.
Okay.
Yes, I did. So, so my dream as I was growing up was go to the University of Georgia and play football at the University of Georgia. Okay, I'm a huge University of Georgia fan. I go to football, baseball, basketball, women's basketball, I love being at a live sporting event. So my dream was to go to the University of Georgia. And I did get to go to the University of Georgia, but I didn't get to play football. When I graduated from high school, I didn't weigh but like 130 pounds. And so there wasn't, and I wasn't that good of a football player. So they wasn't, so those opportunities didn't exist. But I did get to go to the University of Georgia, and that, yes, so I majored in accounting. And so I have a degree in accounting. And really the main thing I learned in 4 years of school is I didn't want to be an accountant. Okay. So when So I was one of those folks that when I chose my major, that I did it for probably the wrong reasons, because others said that's what you needed to do. And so, but anyway, I was a good student in college. I made really good grades in my non-accounting classes, and B's and C's in my accounting classes. And so really for me, for college, what I wanted to do was to get through it and get it over with. And, but at the same time,
let me ask you this, Chess. I mean, just, do you think in today's world, we are putting too much emphasis on college education? Or like, what are your thoughts on college today? Because, some people are just going to go and they're wasting 4 years of their life. I mean, I don't know. What's your thoughts on college today?
So my thoughts are, Daniel, it depends on the individual. Okay. So I think college is a great opportunity for a lot of people. I mean, I was glad that I went to college, because it is different in the 70s when I graduated from college. Okay. There were opportunities for just about every college graduate to increase their social economic status if they went to college. Now, today, there's a lot of opportunities out there, but having said that, there are a lot of smart people, okay, that we need to go to college. I mean, we need folks to be able to make sure we got clean air. We need folks to be able to come up with cures for diseases. I mean, we need smart people doing that sort of thing. And at the same time, I think that kids who go to college, who can afford to go to college, and who are willing to pay the price to go to college, okay, that it's like everything else in life. It's what you do with it. It's what you put into it. and that it's either a learning experience or it's, or you don't get anything out of it. So I do believe it's not for everybody, but for those who choose to do it, I think it's it's like anything else in life. You try it, and if you don't like it, then you change gears in a hurry and go do something else. And so I think that was sort of your story. You tried it and you said, hey, there's this other world out here that excites me. This classroom experience, which I didn't particularly like either, but I did when I put my hands to the plow in college. There was no way I wasn't graduating, so I took a different approach than you did, but I can see very easily why you did what you did, because most of you, it's just, it is a experience that's different than what you experience in the real world.
It's a personal experience too, that some people, they build relationships with people, and they have contacts with people that through college and different things like that. So there's no question about it. For the right person, nothing wrong with college. It's just that I think us as a society, I think we got to be very careful though. Do we as a society make it free for everybody? I don't think so. I think that because when you pay for it, you probably work a little harder. When it's free, it doesn't mean as much. And I don't know. I mean, do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I think everything in life, it's always better for the person that is going to go through an experience to have skin in the game. Okay. And so I'm not a person who believes things ought to be free. Okay. But I do believe that, that there's something that we need to have ways to help people out who want to go to college. Okay. But I don't think anything ought to be free, Daniel. I mean, I don't think, nothing that I've seen in life where the end result was free. Now you can, but there are a lot of people who need help. Okay. Yeah. They need an opportunity. So what I'm in favor of is let's give people opportunities to choose. And if they want to go to college, there needs to be ways for them to be able to go to college, but it's going to require, some skin in the game, some commitment, some want to, and it doesn't need to be easy, because I actually think that the struggle's what helps us be successful.
That's beautiful. Well said. Well said. All right. So, hey, Chess, how did you get into business? Like, how did that all happen where you ended up working with this major, I mean, look, man, you were there from the beginning. All right. So you're in with a company that kind of almost went out of business as they were trying to make their way. And next thing you know, you're like stuck with this crazy founder guy that was like really, a big person, and you guys built an amazing company. I mean, tell us a little bit about those beginning times for you.
So I'll start with answering your first question, was how did I get there? Okay, so like I said earlier, I graduated from University of Georgia with a degree in accounting. Main thing I learned was I didn't want to be an accountant. Okay, so all my life, my summer jobs, so I've always had a high level of energy, Daniel, much like you. Okay, and so I played sports. I had summer jobs that were construction jobs. I worked outside. My dad had a fast food restaurant. After he retired out of the Army, him and his uncle opened a fast food restaurant, and it was sort of the gathering place of the community. And so from the time I was old enough to walk, my dad had me working at that fast food restaurant. You start out, you pick up the trash in the parking lot, and then you get promoted to clean the bathrooms. And then, at some point you get to actually take an order or do some things inside the building. And so I've always worked. And so my summer jobs were always outside, and they were construction jobs. The community of Snellville, Georgia, where my father had his fast food restaurant, was really going through a boom area. And so you could do construction work. You could make enough money to pay all your, to pretty much pay your living expenses for college until the next summer came around, where you could replenish your account. And so that was my game plan. And so when I got out of school, I had worked for a guy who's a real estate broker looking after his residential construction. And so he wanted me to be a real estate broker. And so I said, well, I'll try that. So I got my real estate license and I spent 3 days in the office, and I said, I don't want to be in this office. I want to be back outside. And so I started looking after his residential construction, and Jimmy Carter got to be president. Interest rates went to 17%. The housing market was in the toilet. I wasn't making any money. I was married with a kid on the way. And I don't know, do you remember Rick Mathis, who worked in the home office?
Loved
So
Rick Mathis
has been he was my best friend. He's been my best friend since the 2nd grade. Okay. So I get a call from him, and he says that he just went to work for this company. And he said that he thought it was going to, he thought it was really going to do well. Okay. But that there was a job, but I was going to have to start at the bottom. So I actually started with Primerica in a clerical position, making $850 a month. Okay. So I had to have a job. And the last thing I wanted to do, Daniel, was to walk through the doors of that company, because I had no desire to, none of my parents were corporate employees, so none of that on the surface appealed to me. Okay. But Rick was right, okay, that I did start at the bottom, and there was a lot of opportunity. And so early on in my days, starting with the company, I heard our founder give a speech that said, I want to build a company like a football team, okay? And so everything that came out of his mouth, okay, because growing up playing sports, it just, it hit all of my buttons. Okay. And so I did, in fact, I loved what we did. I loved the people that I was working with, and that early, like the first 10 years of my career, I mean, I really didn't make any money. Okay. But I had great opportunity. Okay. I had great responsibility. So that it seemed like every 6 months, you didn't get more money, but you got unbelievable responsibility. And so that fueled me. And as you move up in the company, you have more influence, and so all of that really, motivated me. Responsibility and knowing you can make a difference and having influence on some things, that always motivated me. And that early on in my career, I decided, as also as our founder said, I was going to plant my flag here. Okay. And so I just sold out to the company. I sold out that we were doing a good thing, that there's nowhere else I could be, that I could help people like I could in that position. It was like a self-improvement company with a compensation package, because you had all of these great leaders in our sales force and these great leaders in the home office, and you could just learn. It was just the greatest learning experience. And that the other thing that was good for me is I'm sort of I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. I like a whole lot of different things. And so in my role in the company, that I was able to get moved around to a lot of different areas of the company. And so you were always challenged, you were always learning something new, and you're always put in a position where you're like, I got no idea, what I'm supposed to do, but you just get in there, you work with the people who do know what's going on. And so for a kid from Grayson, Georgia, who didn't know anything about anything, it was the perfect spot for me to land. It's incredible, Daniel.
That's awesome. So tell me about, the early days, a little, just touch on the early days. Did you ever feel like this thing may not last forever, or did you come in where you knew this thing was going to the moon?
Well, that by nature, I'm a very optimistic guy. So I wasn't one of those that always sat around and said, is this thing going to make it? Okay. What I always saw is the potential. Okay. Now the challenge in the early years was that you really couldn't do anything. You struggled, that we were in fact breaking ground on being able to be a company who had unbelievable technology and computer support. But remember, I joined the company in 1980. And so all of that stuff, you didn't have the internet. It was a different world. Okay. And so you're trying to figure out, I mean, banks that what a lot of people, back when I started with the company, the banks couldn't process pre-authorized checking. They'd mess it up more ways than you could ever imagine. So and you couldn't, so you would leave at night and they were going to turn a commission cycle, and you would pray that the commission cycle would turn and the paychecks would go out. So it was so there was, in fact, I mean, you never doubted the unbelievable enthusiasm and the results that the sales force was delivering, but the home office, you didn't, it was all from scratch. And so,
yeah. And that I think is the point that I want to make, is that people don't realize how good it is today. When you're a fairly new company, I mean, the company was only 3 years old and you came in. And so, you're going, oh my God, this is from scratch. You guys had to learn all the technology. I mean, you guys had to build all these infrastructures from scratch to create a great environment for the sales force, right?
Absolutely, Daniel. And so if you hear folks talk about the good old days, okay, the good old days, in my opinion, are today. Okay, because it's so much easier to get started in your business. There's so much more information on how to build your business. I mean, our company today is unbelievable in our ability to process business. There's nothing out there like it. In our ability to provide support to our sales force, there's nothing, that that we're the best. I mean, I wouldn't, if you're looking at financial services and you're wanting to go in business for yourself, I don't think there's anything out there with the entrepreneurial support to help you build a business than the business that I was a part of and you're currently a part of.
Right. And so, it really is a phenomenal thing. I mean, me. I mean, we met a long time ago. Maybe tell everybody a little bit about how we met and when was the first time, because you were talking a little bit about when's the first time you remember meeting me.
So the first time I remember meeting you, Daniel, was, and I believe it was on an incentive trip, and I don't remember where it was. Okay, but I was hosting a table. Okay. And that you were sitting at my table, and I remember sitting down and looking over there and just thinking, how old is that guy? He looks 16. I mean, you were just I don't know how old you were, but you were a young kid. Okay. And, you and I struck up a conversation, and you were asking great questions. You were enthusiastic. You were bright-eyed. You were everything that when you think about, this guy's going to do unbelievable in the business. Okay. And so that's what I saw when I saw you. And I don't know, we connected that day. We had good conversation, and we stayed in touch after that. And spent a lot of time working on a lot of different issues over the years. I think what the other thing that makes our company so great is that you and I weren't just working together. Okay. You and I were friends. Okay. We respected each other. We treated each other with respect, and that, here we are, I don't know how many years later. I mean, I still look at Daniel Alonzo as my friend. If I was in California and needed something, I wouldn't hesitate to pick up the phone, call you, and
without a doubt. But although we did have some, we did butt some heads sometimes, and maybe talk about how important it is for people to realize that sometimes you can butt heads with people and have different, opinions on things, but still respect each other,
Yeah, absolutely, Daniel. There were things where you and I had a difference of opinion about what was best for the company. Now, we can have a huge argument about who was right and who was wrong, but I think that the thing that we always tried to do is that we respected each other, and at the same time, we put ourselves in the spot. And I always believe empathy is a beautiful thing to help you understand what people were talking about. So while I didn't agree with you in most cases, in the cases where we disagreed, I agreed with you on a lot of things. So I don't, we wasn't like but on the things that we disagreed, I was always honest with you. I mean, I don't think you ever called me and asked me about it where I blew smoke, or I tried to agree with you just to make you, just to pacify you or whatever. That you always knew where I stood. And I always knew where you stood, and we were always open and honest, and that I always tried to put myself in your position. Okay. If I was Daniel and I was out building my business, and if I had this disagreement, how would I feel? What would I want to do? And so I didn't always believe that I was dead right. I was open-minded to consider, is in fact my position the right position? And so I always did try to do the right thing. Now, you and I could disagree on what the right thing was, but I think you always knew my heart was in the right place, and that, and I always felt like that you were trying to do things for the right reasons too.
Yeah, without a doubt, Chess. And that's why, I mean, if you guys are listening, to all of you that are listening right now, you gotta, I hope you're really paying attention, because just hearing Chess talk about some of these different things, many, many years later, it's so refreshing to understand, even now from your perspective, to understand really what happened, because in the moment, in the heat of the battle, in the moment of a disagreement or whatever, we sometimes forget that we have to have empathy. We have to put our feet in other people's shoes and say, why are they thinking this way? Why do they believe these things? And try to understand, kind of like the seek to understand first, then kind of go from that, situation. And so, and I think you always did such an amazing job, Chess. And that's why today, I mean, you are, I respect a lot of home office people, but you're one of those at the top of my list, because we really did, I think, try to understand each other. And I was always so very careful, even though I'm sure I raised my voice many, many times. I was always very careful to let you know how much I respected you and respected what you were trying to, what situation you're trying to portray to me, right?
Yeah, and that whether it was Daniel, Alonzo, or other members of the sales force, that I never took anything that we worked on personally, okay? Because we're all trying to get things to a better place, and there's always going to be some disagreements, and we got to work through those issues, and we got to come up with solutions. And so, I do think that one of my strengths that I developed through handling all the craziness that I wound up having to handle in the company was the fact that it became quite obvious to me that people didn't know, that people didn't care what you thought till you understood what they thought. Okay. And so it was always much better to get perspective from the person that you were dealing with before you came out and said, well, here's the way the cow eats corn. Here's what you're going to go do. Because, that's, that I always took the approach that let's work together and find a solution that works for both the person in the field and the home office. That working together is where we form greatness. If you look at our company versus most financial services company, is the field and the home office really, they hate each other. Okay. And we've got a company where for us to be successful, it's about building relationships with members in the home office, building relationships with people in the field. Because when you look at somebody as somebody that you care about and you want to see succeed, you handle their problems different than if you see somebody that's, oh no, they're calling, it's a problem. How can I get them off the line? And so, anyway, I was blessed to be a part of it. and I was given a lot of opportunities because people took a chance that I could handle those responsibilities. I think I reacted well to it, and that I think I had success because I always felt like my role in the company was to help the person in the field build their business. And if they had success, like I said, for 10 years, I didn't have a lot of financial success, but I always knew, a lot of times that the financial rewards don't come at the beginning of the journey. Okay. They come at the end of the journey. So I was able to move up in the company and wound up the last 8 years of my life, or last 8 years of my career being the chief marketing officer for the company. And that, was there when we did our IPO. And so it was an incredible experience. And so Daniel.
And what he's trying to say is he got really, really rich. Okay. So he's a really rich guy now. And he's, but anyways, I'm kidding. No, really. Hey, look, I'm just saying.
But now, Daniel, I will say this about that. But when I started out as a 20-something-year-old kid from Grayson, Georgia, if I knew life would have turned out like it has, I would have took that in a heartbeat. So
right. I love it. Hey, so you ended up writing a book. Okay. So tell me about your book and tell me why you did it, why you wrote a book. I mean,
so in my career, okay, every day, you were running at 100 miles an hour. Okay. I might get a call from Daniel at 10 o'clock at night after I've worked 12. And so it was like nonstop. And like I said, I've always had a high energy level. So I loved all of that. Okay. But then, so when I left my role in the company, it wasn't a transition. Okay. I'm an all in, all out kind of guy. Okay. And so when I was in the company, I never thought about for 1 second what I was going to do when I left the company, because I felt like that was wasted energy and I was taken away from my teammates and the folks that worked for me, that I had to be totally focused on what I was doing. Okay. But then at the end of each year, I always sort of, between Christmas and New Year's, I'd always take some time off and I would reflect. And I always wanted to make sure before the next year happened that I was 100% in. And in December of 2017, for the first time in my life, I realized that it was time. Okay. That I think at the time I was 62 years old. I'm 64 now. Okay. And so the company was doing great. Okay. And I knew how I was wired. If the company wasn't doing good, you couldn't leave because you had to fight to the death. Okay. The company was doing great. Okay. And I had, in fact, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, I wrote on a sheet of paper what my financial independence number was. And I hit that number, and that I had the people who worked for me were ready to take on new responsibilities and their opportunities. And it was one of those choices where I didn't want to be Steve Spurrier. I don't know if you know Steve Spurrier. He was a very successful coach at the everything SEC football sort of I live in, but so the University of Florida had a coach, Steve Spurrier. He was a great coach, and he retired from Florida and eventually wound up coaching at South Carolina, and that he did an unbelievable job at South Carolina. But to me, it seemed like he stayed 2 years too long. Okay. And so I wanted to leave on my terms at the peak of my game. Now we can say that my peak was only this high, but that I didn't want for them to say, well, we're going to figure out what we're going to have to do with Chess, and we got to give him less responsibility or get him out of there. And so I wanted to go out on, where I felt like things were going great. And so I could have worked longer. I could have, but that it was time to see what the next phase of life had to offer. And so, and it's one of those things where when I left the company, I had to sort of totally withdraw. Okay. Because you don't want, if all you do is think about what you had and missing what you used to do and all that kind of stuff. I mean, when you make a decision to move forward, you gotta move into the next phase of your life. And so that's what I did. And so for the first time in my life, I wake up and I got the freedom of time. Okay. And so, anyway, I was in a very reflective mode. Okay. So I was happy as I could be. I was excited about freedom of time, but at the same time, I didn't want to waste this next phase of my life. Okay. And so I began to think about the things that I felt like helped me in my career and my life to the point when I retired. Okay. And so that's when I started for the first, and now I've never written anything in my life. I've never, when I went to college, I never wrote a term paper. Okay. If you sent me, I bet you don't have an email where I sent you a long response. I bet if you ever sent me an email, I bet you it said, give me a call or let's discuss or something like that, but then you wake up one day and I just started handwriting my thoughts on why I had some success in the first part of my career. And then after about 2 or 3 weeks, I felt like I had, that maybe I had a couple of chapters for a book. And so Monica Lewis, who's a lady that worked at the company, who is unbelievable in her own right. She's a tremendous writer, editor, and just super, she was always the person that I went to if I needed something written, she would help write it. Okay. And so I sent what I had to her. She's, she retired a little before I did. And I said, look at this and tell me what you think. And she said, I think you're onto something. Keep writing. I'll help you get this in an electronic format. I couldn't even type, Daniel. Okay. And still don't, but at some point I felt like I had a book. Okay. And so I never set out to write a book. I never dreamed of writing a book. I felt at a certain point that I was led to write the book and to get it published. And so the good news is that while, you probably can't, you can argue about how talented I am, but I am persistent. So I wasn't going to, at the point that I decided I was going to do this, I was going to see it through to the end and make sure that book got published.
Oh, I love
and so,
that. I love that.
And so Monica helped me tremendously. So I kept writing. And then finally I got to a point where I said, I can't ask Monica to continue to do what she's doing. And that I found a publisher and I thought I had a book. Okay. And they said, well, we're willing to work with you. Okay. But you got to double the word count in the book. And so, as you know, the book's only 165 pages. And so, I believe in brevity. I believe in getting to the point. And so, but that I do think I had tremendous editorial support from my publisher, who said, hey, here's where you need to expound on this. You need to tell this story in a different way. And so I do feel good about the book that I've written. I do believe it's a good book. And I think I wrote it for the right reasons, because I wrote it to give something back to others and to, what I want people to do is to read the book, not for me to tell them what to do or think, but to give them things that they need to think about. Because if you think about, and Daniel, you know this better than me, that the principles of success, okay, what Napoleon Hill talked about, in 1900 and what the actual principles are today are really pretty much the same principles. But now how you execute those principles, it's kind of like fashion. I mean, circumstances have changed and they're going to continue to change. So you can't do what I did to be successful in today's world. Okay. But you got to have the same success principles. Okay. And so, I've always, I love John Wooden's pyramid of success. I mean, all the success principles are really just, the cornerstones of his principle were enthusiasm and industriousness, which was hard work. But he explains that as more than just hard work. And you read Napoleon Hill's stuff. I mean, I just pulled Napoleon Hill's 17 Laws of Success off my bookshelf. Every now and then, I got 1,000 books down here in my basement. Every now and then I'll just, something will say, well, I want to pull this off and look at it again. And so his success principles that he wrote in the 1900s are the same success principles that if you read Deshaun Watson's book on leadership, but it's how you take advantage of the circumstances, and that what Daniel's going to need to do in the next 5 or 10 years of his life is probably going to be different than what I need to do, but that the principles that are going to make us successful in whatever we choose to do are probably the same principles, but that they've got to be implemented based on the circumstances.
And I think, Chess, well said. I just think that what's so awesome about your book is you talk about wisdom. And I think that I want to kind of close out with, we only have about 5 minutes, and I want to close out just asking you a couple of things, and just maybe almost like a speed round here. You know, because you wrote some of these things in your book. You said there is nothing good at the bottom of a bottle. What'd you mean by that?
Well, you know, in a passing conversation, one of my friends said, one of their relatives said that nothing's good at the bottom of a bottle. Okay, that's something to think about. Okay, so everybody, you know, that most things in life are fine with moderation. Okay, but that as I got older, I realized that, you know, even if I just had a beer or a glass of wine, you know, it drained my energy. It didn't help my energy, and so I do think people ought to just ask themselves the question. Okay, you know, is there anything good at the bottom of the bottle? Okay. And just ask, and if it is, then, you know, but you ought to have something that guides your life. Cause I do believe that, so I'm not, you know, I'm not anti-alcohol, or I'm not that guy. Okay. That all my friends, you know, when we hang out, you know, we're in restaurants, bars. But for me, that, you know, I made a decision at age 48 that, you know, it just wasn't, it just drained my, you know, if I just sipped a glass of wine, it drained, you know, it drained my energy. And so,
right.
And so I think people, instead of following the crowd, need to do whatever they do with intentions and with some principles around what they're doing.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, you know, I've heard those words all my life. And it was actually one of our CEOs at the time came in my office, and he just had a conversation with one of our top people in Salesforce, and him and that guy were dear friends. And that guy was off on he had a business he wanted to get involved in that could never coexist with our business, and that and it just struck me, you know, how could somebody who my friend who was a CEO had done such an unbelievable job helping that guy, could wake up one day and not even, you know, tell him what they were doing. I mean, it was just one of those things where you realize that in life, you can't always expect people to react the way that they should, but you should always, if a good deed needs to be done, you need to do it regardless of how the other person is going to react to it.
Love that.
And so,
be humble and guard against pride.
yeah. So, you know, that what I observed in leadership, okay, if a leader ever becomes full of himself, okay, if he ever thinks he knows more than he knows, okay, that you're headed to a bad spot. Okay. So in life, you got to be ambitious. You got to want to get after it. You got to want to go for it, but you got to remember, humility, and you got to know that you don't know everything. Now, I wrote a book called Seek to Be Wise, Daniel. You notice it didn't say I was wise, because when you get to the point where you think you're wise, you're probably closer to a fool. And so I've worked hard to get to where I've gotten on my journey, but that I still got a long way to go. So, but that you got to be humble. Okay. That humility, but you got to be ambitious. Okay. So this, life is about contradictions. Okay. So you got to be humble, but you got to be ambitious. You got to give your best. You got to, you got to do all those things. But at the same time, you got to remember that, you're lucky to be where you are. Okay. Right. A lot of people helped you out, and you better be humble, and you better appreciate what others have done for you. And you better appreciate that, while, we worked hard for these good things that are happening to us, a lot of, our health could change tomorrow and it could all be gone. They could, so let's be humble. Let's love the good things that have happened to this point and the good things that are going to happen in the future. But let's don't think, we got all the answers, that we know it all, that we're still in that growth process where, hey, we got to be better people.
Oh, I love it. Wow. Honestly, Chess, I have so many questions for you that we could do this for another hour. Can't do it today, but I'll tell you what, I think we need to schedule in the future to do a part 2 where I just hit you with some of these ideas, because I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Chess. You are one of my favorite people on planet Earth. And I appreciate you. I appreciate your wisdom. I have learned so much. I am a better human being today. Ain't perfect, ain't got it all right yet, don't know it all, but I'm just such a better human being because I got to know Chess Britt. And the last thing I want you to just tell us how to get the book. Because I know everybody's going to go buy that book, man. I mean, every single person that listens to this podcast, watches this on YouTube, you're going to go buy that book today, because this is jam-packed with life lessons from one, in my opinion, one of the best leaders that I've ever met in all my years in business. So tell us how to do that, Chess.
Well, thanks, Daniel. So the book's available wherever books are sold. Okay. If you want to buy it on Amazon, you can buy it on Amazon. If you like to do business with your local bookstore, they can get the book for you. They probably don't have it in stock, but it's available wherever books are sold. So, so the publisher has, nationwide distribution and international distribution. And so, if you want to just order it on Amazon, you can do that. But the book's available wherever books are sold.
And you are on Instagram, Chess, CHESS Britt, BRITT. Make sure you guys go follow Chess on Instagram. And where else are you? Are you on Twitter and all these other places? Or
I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and then I've got a website, chessbritt.com.
Nice. Chess, this has been an
Daniel, I probably need your coaching. Now, the hardest thing about the book process wasn't writing the book. Okay. It was having, for the first time in your life, get involved with social media. And so,
there you go.
So I got a lot of work to do to be good at that. So I'm in the process.
You call me anytime. I am there for you, Chess. And I'm always here for you, buddy. So you got my cell phone number, and I hope we always keep in touch no matter what. And this has been an absolute dream and pleasure for me to get to do this and document this, and a little bit about our journey. To be able to document this is really, really cool for me to be able to do. Thank you, Chess. I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate you, man.
All right, everybody, go make that happen. Go buy Chess's book. Make sure that you go follow him on Instagram. And as I always say, man, just keep dreaming bigger than ever. Get after it, but make sure that you do it now. God bless you. We will see you at the top.